Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Chandani Singh with us. A brief introduction of Dr. Chandani. She has done her bachelor's in chemistry honors from Pune University, and for master's and PhD she attended University of Hyderabad and specialized it in chemistry. For postdoc, she moved to Israel and worked in collaboration with Ariel University and Shami Shamum College of Engineering. And then that was the academic part which she did. And then for industrial postdoc, she attended Vito, Belgium. And then currently she is a scientist at Rise Processum in Sweden. With this brief introduction, I would like to say thank you so much, Dr. Chandni, for taking this time out for having conversation with us.
Thank you, Raja, for inviting me. I'm also very happy to be part of this series and share my experience with you and everybody else.
Thank you so much. And we always start these conversations that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Okay, maybe it's not very straight answer. How and when would be difficult, but definitely the spark for research started maybe in my bachelor's. So I got one opportunity where I had exchange for 3 months of program, and I did a research, small thesis, small research project under NCL in Pune. So it's National Chemistry Laboratory. And there, when like I just started my bachelor's degree, and it's you're very new, you're starting into the subject understanding. And there, when I went, I saw the research part of the chemistry, and it was more organic chemistry with drugs and all. So it was very fascinating, and that gave some spark. So I had this idea, if not this, I would definitely go towards research, but it was not decided then. But that was definitely the catalyst to initiate this research. And then as I moved to masters, the research became, this interest towards research became more and more stronger. And then ultimately I just took it. So it was not like, oh, yeah, I want to do this immediately, but it was slowly and with just observational and understanding that I like looking into the answers and understanding how this works, why this works. So that would be the catalyst for me.
Great. So you started tasting the research in bachelor's and then obviously in master's. What were the major key factors that you decided that you want to actually pursue and commit to PhD?
Ah, so I after masters, I was clear that I have to do PhD, and there were like two, three areas which I was very peculiar about that I want to explore this region and I want to do that. So what did I do? And that actually decided, and that's how I was like, okay, I want to do this. And before that, my master thesis also very important, played an important role because there. So I worked with inorganic chemistry, and it's also when you see your first own crystal you form. So it is that fascination, like having your, if you put a seed and you see a plant coming out of it. So it gives the same kind of satisfaction, and towards that you have this understanding why that plant grew up. So you know that you have that understanding how it will work, and then you have application part of it for sure. So that was something when I did some in the masters, during my master thesis, that I knew also that this would be the field I want to do, and now I would like to continue that in my PhD. And so I continued in the same lab and followed with my master thesis and continued the research program from there on. So
Okay.
that's,
So it was kind of straightforward for you continuing your master's research to your PhD in the same lab.
yeah.
But what you can tell all the audience here who are either struggling or are in dilemma that which lab they should join for their PhD. So based on your experience, what you can tell them?
And normally I ask my students, or if I ask some master student, I will ask them two questions. Why do you want to do PhD? Your goal should be clear. Is it more academic? Are you looking into fundamental research? And are you looking into industrial application? Because now the research is completely, it's more broader. So you have to have this vision quite straightforward. It's good if you have a clear goal. If you're still in dilemma, I normally suggest do a 1 year project with a it's good to take time off, because you don't want to commit to PhD and after 3 years you feel like this is wrong decision. So take a 1 year this there are a lot of project programs. So you do 1 year project, see how you feel about it, and then you commit to that as a PhD. So normally I suggest there are people who really like fundamental chemistry, and it's the fundamental which actually puts the industrial application or the next what we do forward. And so it's also important. So you have to see if you're really into that, going into the niche research, and it's clear, then go for that field. So you should have that feeling. If you don't have that yet, take some more time. So it's always good to have pause. And also, I think in our Indian mindset, we are so much taught that you should not take a pause. You should just keep running, running, running. And that somehow creates a lot of problem in us. Like we are not sorted that well. So I think it's good that you take a pause, think about it, take a step backward also. So that gives you a clear clarity, and then you see what works for you, because it's person to person, it's completely different. And you have to have your clear mind when you want to commit for something which is long, because it's a really long term. When you commit to PhD, you have a long road. There's so many things which will come up, and it is different. Everybody has different pathway, they have different journey, and your journey would be completely different. So you should be ready for that. So that's why I would say just take your time, think about it. And if you have then technical thing, go talk to people who are already in that field, visit labs, because now people are actually opening their labs for people to go visit, spend some time with them. And it's actually good. So you know how the work culture is. So then you have an idea if you really want to do PhD, or you're good that you want to go for a job straight after your master's.
Absolutely. I think this is very important for all the researchers who are in dilemma, that shall they start their PhD straight away, or they, as Dr. Chandni mentioned, they give themselves that litmus test, that do a project for 1 year, enjoy all the ups and downs of that research, and then commit to it. That are you going to commit for a PhD, which can be anywhere from 3 years to 5 years, depending on which part of the universe you are going to take that degree. And then, because there will be a lot of ups and downs in it. And now we will hear from Dr. Chandni about the experience of doing PhD. How was that?
So it was not a straight road. It was again little ups and little downs. And then, yeah, for me, it took 5.5 years. At the end, there was COVID, so that was an added bonus. uh, so, yeah, there are already people who affected a lot because of the COVID time, and especially for research, if everything else was fine, the university was closed. And for me, especially, that part was really it was a bit more tense, because I got my postdoc already, but I could not finish. I had like last things which I have to finalize. I could not finish. I had some last few experiments which I need to do to finalize my papers. So the last 6 months of this 20 to end of 2020 was very crucial, and it was very slow. So it was a lot of talking with administrative going for, but this is other part. It normally doesn't happen. But apart from that, it was just the going through this, as we say, science, we understand it, but it's always not how we see it. It's not A plus B equal to C. So it is sometimes different, and that's how we do research. So there were a lot of ups and downs in that way. But it worked well for me. So it was not very bad for me. I had very good guidance. I had very good colleagues with me who we used to have very good this brainstorming sessions. And I would say that's very important to have a good peers around you when you're doing PhD. Otherwise, you will feel left alone, and you should avoid doing that. So if that is happening, so you should then try to make your good group and be a part of a group. I think that is very important if you're not with your family. So if you're doing it abroad or you're doing somewhere, you need to have that support group. So you come out of the lab, you have that positivity around you. So for me, I would say it was okay. It wasn't that bad. I managed to finish, and there were like small hurdles here and there. Some with the results, some with normal things around, like you have small issues with the labs, instruments. So those things happened here and there, but it wasn't something that could not manage. So I think it was okay.
Okay. Not many people say that their PhD journey was actually smooth, or as you said, it was okay. So, with this, we'll say that okay, what were the key factors which you decided before joining that lab? Because, yes, you transitioned from master's to PhD in the same lab, but now, based on your experience of throughout the PhD, now if you have to guide someone that if they are in dilemma or they are thinking of different labs, what are the things which they should like make a checklist, and based on that they should join those labs for their PhD?
Okay. You should definitely go for a different lab. So this I would suggest to people: if you did masters in one lab, especially, it's good. You should go for some other labs, even though if it's very good, it gives you initial idea. But then it's always good to go in different kind of groups and understand. For people who want to explore these, you have to first check. So first is your research interest. Say you have sorted your research interest, and now you have finalized 5, 6 labs, and from then you see how the lab looks. So the structure of lab is also very important. So you should see that there should be a, you can call it hierarchy, but at least there should be like 1 year who came before you, there are people who are 2 years, so you have a proper stairs. So there are people who have knowledge, who went through similar thing close enough, like 6 months before somebody joined, so they know what you're going to go through. There are people who are 1 year, who came 1 year before. There are people 2 year. So there should be this, you should have this staircase in the group if you see that already. And how diverse is the field? If the field is very diverse, so you should be you, apart from the research, you should, these are very important, that actually helps you to sustain those 4 years or 3 years of how long you're going to survive. And then see what kind of collaborative work that group gives you. You should see all these things, see the diversity in the group. I think that is also important. So you should not go in a group as an external person where rest of the person belongs to group A. That, irrespective of what we say, it happens. If you are in a majority diverse group and you go there as an foreign person, as not belonging to the same group, you will feel left out, and that happens everywhere. So you should ideally go for a more diverse group if you're going for somewhere, or if you belong to that group, please go for that. But especially it's good to have diversification. It gives you, helps you also to learn a lot. It will add to your external characters apart from the research and all this thing. So I think when you're choosing lab, research and all, you can check from, you can see papers, these things you already have sorted it. But these factors, they are very important. You should go for those. See how the lab is, see how, what things they have done. If possible, ask the PI to go and visit, meet him in person before you say yes to the lab. If it's possible, do that. Or if you are doing abroad, ask them if you can do another non-interviewal, just a Zoom meeting, meet the teammates, because you're committing for something long and you want to be comfortable when you reach, so you know them already. So try to do that. I think it's good. So don't be scared that, oh, should I ask them or not? Just ask it. I think sometimes people tend to think a lot. So I think it's just go ahead, ask these things. You just can ask if it's possible, I would like to, or join the group meetings. You have not joined the lab, just ask that you want to join the group meeting for one time. If the PI says yes, then you know how the PI is also welcoming. It would be easy for the person to go for that lab. So I think it's also like you want to soothe into the new family as a new person. So you want to have that as smooth as possible. So it's also the person who is getting in, and also the other people who are around them. They should also be feel like, they should feel like, okay, this person is coming, we should welcome that person. So you should see how the lab culture is, and that's
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah, no, I think that is more important than even like, yes, we always focus more on the research question or the labs which we are interested in, as you mentioned, about like the research questions or the focus of the lab is what you really align with. But what is even more important at some point of time is how is the lab culture, the environment is there. If it is very supportive, then you can sustain there for as long as it takes for your PhD. But if it is not, then it can be a challenge. And that is what we are facing in India and abroad also, that people like PhD students are quitting after 2, 3, 4, 5 years of their research, and they just don't, they are ready to give up everything what they work towards for. So based on your experience, if you have to guide a student who is in dilemma of either continuing or quitting their PhD after 3 years, what that will be?
So if the situation is really worse that you can't do it anymore, I would say it's good to quit it if that is, or if you can ask, sometimes people take a, you take a 1 year gap and then you come back with a refreshed mind. If it's your research which is getting stuck, but if it's the lab environment which is getting stuck, then if you can push yourself, then do for it. But otherwise, I would say it's, PhD is not end of the world. There's always an option. There are option like based on your experience during those 3 years, there are also valuable lessons. So you have to take it as a positive approach rather than a negative approach. You don't need to keep pushing to the end that you are, now you are at the end that you can't do it anymore. So if you feel already that this is too much for you and you can't continue even after taking a small break, if you don't feel like it's working for you, then I think it's fine that you leave it and take that, whatever you learned, take that as an experience and proceed forward. So there is a lot of dilemma, I think, or there is a lot of uh, people put terms around these, because I know people who actually left like this after 4 or 5 years, and there are people who actually struggled for 7 years, 8 years. Especially in India, also we have like long-term PhDs, and they finally managed to do it. It's not something very good. We should be proud of that. Okay, they did it, but yeah, we should be. So that's why I said if it's really bad, you should have that strong support group. If you have that strong support group, you can go through it. But if it's not there and you're feeling it's too much, I would say it's, at least this is my personal opinion, that I would say it's okay. You can leave that, take that positive thing, move to another thing. So you have a long life. There's so much to do. You can always come back and do something else. So it's not end of the world.
Absolutely. And this is one of the things which we talk in these conversations with our researcher celebrities, that PhD is, as you mentioned, is not either end of the world or start of the world, whatever way they want to listen to this or he or want to correlate with it. It's like if you really feel that you belong, then only you should. Neither the environment nor anything else should be deciding that. Most of the times what we have seen is like PhD students moving from one lab to another were more successful than if they would have been in the same lab. And we have seen a number of stories that a person chose not to give up and complete their PhD, and after their PhD they were so done with the research that they were like, okay, I got what I wanted, now I'm not going to continue academia. So they moved sideways, which is absolutely fine. But what the point of these conversations having with the researcher celebrities is like to give this 360-degree preview for all the researchers who either are struggling or are facing the challenge and are not sure how to navigate those. So here we are giving the expertise from different uh, level of hierarchy, like either the PhD student talking to them, or the postdocs, early career faculties, or even emeritus scientists, which we have in this series, just to give them that if you are facing some challenge, you are not the only one who are going to face that. There were people who have walked that path, succeeded because they loved it so much. And as you mentioned, if you think that PhD is not for you, there is nothing wrong in quitting. But if you think that research is your driving force and it's just the lab environment which is not very conducive or supportive, there is always this chance that you can always start a fresh one because the skill set which you have gained in that lab is going to be with you forever. Whatever happens is a different thing. But now talking about that when you moved for your postdoc, and especially like there are not many celebrities who have done this both, like academic postdoc and industrial postdoc. Based on that experience, what you can suggest that if somebody is not very clear that what their next step should be after their PhD, what are the things they should check before committing to either academics or industry?
If the research, yeah, it would also depend on the area of research. So if your research is very fundamental, it would be generally it becomes very difficult to get an industrial postdoc straight away. So it's good to increase your, and especially for me, I'm more interested towards industrial. I had this that I wanted to move toward industrial research, but I had the same thing. What I did research was very fundamental. It was related to the application part, but it was not very strongly related to it. So this postdoc or the location also helps in that way. So that added to more my expertise, what I did there, and then based on that, I would say just try to increase your knowledge basis so you can, if you're still thinking that this knowledge basis will help you to move toward industrial, keeping it open so you can have options open and see how you go and how you feel about it. So, like some cases, like I had very clear idea I want to go towards this, but we can be confused when we start and like, okay, I don't know what I have to do. Now there are labs who do some scale of industrial. They are still fundamental, but they try to also reach to certain levels which is close to industrial. So those labs are also very good option. So where you can get exposure, being in research part which is still academic, but they do collaboration with industries. So you get understanding of how the industrial research work. And so I think going for those kind of lab would be also very good. So something like there are in Europe, there are these research uh, organizations. They're called, like Vito is one of them. So there are different I think most of these countries under the EU, they have their own research organization whose role is to act as a middle person between academic and industry. So they are like bridging gap, bridge between the both, and they don't do completely like industry. So it has some academic things plus some industrial thing. So I think that's a really good start to know where you really stand. So you get an exposure how industry works, still working close to how still working close to the academics. So that actually helps. And it was same for me being part of this, which is partially academic, partially industrial. You know how it's going to work, whether you like that kind of life while working on that. So it's a good exposure. And while talking to people, you can get experience, but when you, until you have not experienced it yourself, you can't feel that whether you really like to do it or not. So you should go for something like this to understand that.
Absolutely. And I think this is where I always say to all the audience that every person, every researcher is so different in their way. As Dr. Chandni mentioned, either you're focused to do something for the society and are translational research oriented, where you are like, okay, I want to develop a product which should be helping the society within couple of months, years, depending on how you do think, or you are thinking for a global question which is going to, help the humanity everywhere, and then it might obviously take a long time. So based on your research and your interest, you should always follow, as Dr. Chandni mentioned, that either you are going to pursue the academic research or the industrial research. Because in industrial research, yes, there is a small portion where you can do your exploratory research, but it's very limited. Most of them, it is about the translational research, that you have to develop a product or a service which can be commercialized very, in a short period of time. Speaking of which, Dr. Chandni, you have done both of them, and then now being a scientist at Rice Processum, the journey from PhD student to postdoc in academia and industry, and now having this position, the one thing which you will say that okay, your PhD has prepared you for your current role?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. But PhD actually did taught me to manage with whatever resources you have, and with the limited resources or limited things, to think on your toes, come up with solutions quickly. That was something we had to be very imaginative during the time when I did my PhD. We had less funding in the lab, so that was part of my. And the moment we left, we got a lot of funding. So we are the part of. So my batch, and there are like 4 or 5 people. We are the part of the PhD where we had limited funding. So we did a lot of these kind of last minute things, changes, or be resourceful. I think that helped a lot. And that was the part which helped to move forward. And also, when I gave during my interviews, also I felt, because these questions are being asked, you will have these hypothetical questions, so coming up with solutions, giving answers. So these are the things that are fundamental we learned in PhD. And these regular, we had this regular group meetings, or the regular the brainstorming sessions with the colleagues. I think that was very important, and that helped me to move forward till now, I would say. Yeah, and I had actually very good mentors during that, from where I learned the basically the technical part, which I'm working on now, started there. So that was the first stone which was put there, and I am very proud to say that I had very good teachers too who helped me. I had good mentors who really helped me during that. So it was really very critical for me, and that's so I tried to move forward to it and see wherever the chance is there to give it back to the people or the society or to my master students when I had few of them. So I tried to tell them what I learned and maybe add so that it keeps moving forward. But yeah, that is still very crucial. But apart from that, it is still learning. I feel like every day, because it's new challenge as you go to new roles, you increase your responsibility, you have things. So sometimes you have to also learn. So you learn on the job. So it's more like that.
Absolutely. And I think now we'll talk about, like, we have discussed all the, and you projected all the good parts of PhD, great mentorship. How about the challenges of negative results, what some people says, or in general, what we discuss in these researcher celebrity conversations are the field experiments, the pressure it brings to do the PhD, and even in postdocs, like how you have dealt with it, and then based on your experience, what you can suggest the audience.
Yeah, the field experience, that is something there is, it is good if you have a good PI to help you in that. Because in some cases where, like, I also had like tons of projects which never worked, and had the plan that it should go this way and I should get this. So for me, I decided to stop. And in my case, I always had this parallel experiments or parallel planning, where you always have one which is very ambitious project, which, if it works, it's really good, but there is a chance that it will not work, and the chance is very high. But you always try to compensate it with very projects which will for sure work. So having this, even if the ambitious project doesn't work, you are not empty handed. So you will have something to work on it. So normally this is how I have worked before. So try to keep it minimum. So the loss is kind of taken by some small wins. And even if that doesn't work, you have something to finish your PhD. And especially for me, the last year it was like that now I had to finish my PhD. I was running out of time, and there were some projects which were not working. So then I have to take a like decision what I want. So my decision was, okay, I want to finish my PhD. So now what I learned is good enough. If I do this ambitious project, that will not give me anything new. So at this point, it is important that I finish one project to complete my thesis. So I just proceeded toward that. I think that's also important where you are. So the first 2 years, if your PhD program is for 3 years or 4 years, you should try to do the ambitious thing in the first 2 years. And after that, if you see, you have to be then become very strategically. because you will have failed result, but you should try to have this compensation. You have to compensate it, because if you are doing too much of these and a lot of negative results is coming out of it, and sometimes PIs are really good, so you can always use that. If they are not, so consider the worst case scenario that nobody is supporting you. In that case, you should have this positive something which will work. So go for a known path. Maybe you will not break through it, but the next step will help you to get some results out of it. So just after 2 years or at the end of 2 years, you should try to look into the project. And I think first 2 years are very crucial in that way. How you proceed with your project planning, how you think your thesis is going to look. So in the first 2 years, you should do that. And with the negative results, then try to compensate it.
Absolutely. I think this is well said that if you are doing a 4 or 5 year PhD, these 2 years are the fundamental ones, and you can decide based on whatever the output you have. Like either you are going to proceed with the same project, or as Dr. Chandni said, that you might have to develop, or with support of your supervisor, that you might have to develop a new project which you are sure of that you are going to accomplish all those questions which you are asking for your thesis, and then submit, and then get graduated. Because PhD, we always say that it's not a training, it's actually not a degree, it's a training for lifetime. This is what you are learning, and you are going to follow most of it for your lifetime. It changes your personality along with the name, which obviously everyone gets doctor after that. So, Dr. Chandni, speaking of the PhD postdoc and your current position, if we have to ask that one question, that what keeps you on your toes every morning before going to lab, and you're enthusiastic about it, instead of with the droop shoulders, you're like, oh, you know what, I have to go to do work. What is that one thing?
Uh, so it is still the interest in research. Like the day I have worked in lab, I really feel good. And the day I have a lot of meetings, I really don't feel good. So I still feel that going to lab is still a major that still stimulates me well. And then if I have more research, like we are discussing and we're talking about research, I feel really energetic. So that's something I still look forward to. So that part is still not dead. So I'm happy. And
That's
it
actually
should
a good
be.
point. Yeah,
Yeah, it should be like that. If you feel that that's not helping you anymore, then I think it's important to think about how you want to proceed. And that's why this field, when I chose, it's also similar that there is some research, but there is also business and understanding companies. You're dealing with real issues rather than going for research, like niche research. So it's also very good because you are actually dealing with real cause. You directly look for, okay, this is the real issue we are facing and we need to solve it. What are the solutions for that? And then we give some solutions. Okay, we can do it. And then you see if you can actually solve it. So that part is actually very good. So when you then for that, if you do research and you just go through literature also, which is completely new subject. So with this, I get exposed to too many new things which I have not done so far, things which I left long back. So I remember things, oh, I read this in masters. It's been so long. So yeah, that's something which I really like. And having this different exposure to different field, because I was very chemistry person, especially not in chemistry also. You as you move forward, you become more and more pocketed inside. But then when you come back again on this bigger scale, you are slowly exposed to the bigger picture again. So you are exposed not only to chemistry, but say biology or physical chemistry, engineering. So you see how everything is related to each other, and then you see the holistic picture. So that comes, I think, now. So that's the part which really good. And then every day, you have this week, you have this next week. So that keeps me up. I'm
absolutely. I
happy
think
with
that's
it.
a great thing. Be motivated with your passion, because nobody can take that passion out of you. And that's a great point. Now, in India and globally, we started talking about women in STEM, your experiences, and then what you can share with the next generation of women in STEM.
I have experienced both in a way, like uh, it's still there, I would say, but not that much. That people still think some places we are treated equally, but there are some places where people still think little of women in STEM. It's not that much. It's slowly decreasing. So that's, and we should also be part of it. Try to improve it, make sure that we stand, that we are doing equal. So we should try to balance it out and speak your mind out whenever you see the possibility. Don't feel suppressed, because this happened sometimes, or I had this experience where it was a group of people and it was based on the voice. So the pitch of voice, somebody had higher pitch, so they kept saying, and before that we were saying the same thing. So this also happens. It's like, okay, then you have to ask them to stop and say like, okay, I'm saying the same thing. So I think it's important that you keep your points, even if you feel like somebody is taking it, you just come back and say that. So if we keep doing that, there are people, you will always feel this. I think it's also for everybody, irrespective of your gender, it's there. So you should try to come up and keep your voice up. So if you can do that, it's you will be fine, and you will, and irrespective of gender, I would say there are people. So you should keep your stand in the ground and just, if you're right, you know you are right, and you do that. And if you have an opinion, say that out loud. So you should be, yeah.
That is something which we always say, that being vocal is the best remedy and support you can get always. Like, either if you see any injustice, or you are facing a like problem or an issue which you need troubleshooting, or you seek for the advice, like, being vocal is your best friend when you are in research. And that is irrespective of which stage of research you're doing, either as a PhD student, early career, somewhere in tenure positions, or even after that. Because what we know about research, it's a team game. It's not that one person decides that what all can be done and how it will be done and everything else, but it is about the teamwork, that somebody has done that fundamental research for what you want to build upon, either on a product or on services you want to give to the community. Because somebody has done all of that, or probably you are that one who's going to do all those fundamental research for that. But being vocal, either it is for asking for help or for troubleshooting, or even sometimes in networking. Because in India, what we have seen is, like, sometimes you might not have the basic infrastructure what is required for your research question. But if you know that how to network, go and seek for help, there are peoples and institutes who can just fulfill it to the perfection. What were your experiences on that, and what you can suggest our audience for that?
I definitely agree. I think, at least in today's day, when networking is as easy as sending connections in LinkedIn, talking to them, or just finding mail or write to them. So if you really want to, and I have this also, people when they connect on LinkedIn, just start with your introduction and ask question already. Don't say hi, how are you doing? You should not tend to do that, because if you're directly say contacting somebody who receives a lot of emails every day. So you want to also make sure that your message reaches to them and you get a response. Maybe when you're also doing email, try to keep it concise, but keep just go ask people. So network wherever possible. If you're not going for conferences, if you're not part of a workshop, if you can't do that, just do this. You because now with the internet, everything is very accessible. We can directly connect with people, try for different opportunity. Even if you see that you cannot do right away something, you can create a network which will help. Maybe later you can have a collaboration from out of it. So networking is very important at this point, and asking for help is also very important. Sometimes we feel like, okay, I can't ask help, but it's fine. You can ask help whenever it's required. As you said, research is not a single person's thing. It's always a team's, it's team thing. So it has to be done within the team. You can ask stupid questions. There is no stupid questions. Sometimes we feel like, oh, this is so small and we should not, I should not. No, you sometimes it's good to have other person's eyes. We do the same thing and we don't see the mistakes. But maybe if you get a person who has no idea, and that person can point you like straight away, oh, this is wrong or this is the problem. So feel free to ask people, have a good support. You should have these people to whom you can go and ask for help. So but we should do that, and I think it's very important also to make sure that we sustain the research that you're going to do. It's a lifelong thing. So you will be doing, if you're doing PhD, suppose you want to proceed in this line, you will be doing the same thing or maybe progress in that for next 15 years, 20 years in your life. So you should have this around you. So and
Absolutely. I think speaking of the networking, what all have been discussed, I would like to say to all the audience that if you want to write to Dr. Chandni, you can write to her directly. Find her on LinkedIn or any other places, because she has published those research papers, and that is one part of the research which makes you uh, global, that whatever you publish under your name, it's there, and then people can just contact you. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to support you also. Like, the only thing which we ask from you is, like, if research is what fascinates you and if this is what makes you happy, we are there to support you in all our capacity. And either it is connecting with our researcher celebrities or providing you with more information. That's what all we want. And we'll say at this point of time, thank you so much, Dr. Chandni, for sharing your journey and igniting more researchers for a future generation.
thank you, Raja, for having me. It was really nice talking about all these things with you.
Thank you so much. For all the audience, will say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Celebrity.